So WWE Hell in a Cell is just a week away, and so far 2 matches announced. Let's start with that match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Randy Orton demanding his rematch as he would like to take on Mark Henry once more. Of course, at Night of Champions, that shocking moment where he saw Mark Henry finally get the World Heavyweight Championship. You had people in the crowd shouting at him saying it's about time you got that belt. Everybody waited 15 plus years for this guy to finally get put over, and after an incredible run these past few weeks as a top heel, cemented to me as a World Heavyweight Champion.
I don't think in all the days gone by we'd ever see Mark Henry as World Heavyweight Champion, but it is the case. It's been a long time for the guy, but fair play, he got his reward for being a company guy in the end. Transitional period for the belt, possibly. Will Orton take it at Hell in a Cell? More than definitely, I'd imagine, but I'd like to be proven otherwise. Again, it kind of works with the Heavyweight Championship. I think they could definitely get a lot more than 2 weeks out of it, but it remains to be seen. Probably the shortest period ever between pay-per-views that I can remember on record, and they'll definitely have to put out a few things on Raw and SmackDown over the next week. Is it only a week?
Only a week away.
Yeah, so surely we'll get some more matches for Hell in a Cell. It's kind of I kind of like the old Hell in a Cell, I have to say. I'm a bit of a sucker for that one for some reason.
Well, I like gimmick matches. I like anything that reminds me of War Games,
Yeah, they're kind of fun. Not so much a fan of the blood and the chair shots to the head and all that, but Hell in a Cell is kind of funny for the most part. So, as far as the winner goes with this one, I kind of like Mark Henry to see what else he can bring to the table with the belt. Would be ashamed for it to be so short-lived, but they kind of need. I don't know if they do need Orton to be the face of SmackDown, because Cena's the champ on the other side. What's the point in having both of them stale it up once again? Let Mark Henry, I think, reign supreme, and let the what does he call it? The what's his deal? The Walls of Pain or some deal like that he's banging on about.
I missed that one actually.
No, maybe I'm wrong on that one. Something along those lines anyway. Destruction multiplied by infinity.
Absolutely, he certainly did make his statement this week with JR, and people now speculating that he's going to move on to Lawler. Maybe that's going to be a match arranged for next week. Of course, maybe now we're going to see this Super Show be the place where the Orton Henry thing is going to be built. Perhaps again that's another good point about joining sort of Raw with SmackDown in a sense, and allowing those guys to come over, is because you can actually advertise this feud now, Orton v Henry, on the big show on Monday Night Raw on the USA Network, and that's a stroke of genius, because again that's going to sell that pay-per-view. It's going to sell the fact that there are 2 world title main events, much more, because I think a lot of times people who only watch Raw, they might only be aware of the Cena feud, can't be bothered with SmackDown then, and half the time I wouldn't have really that much insight into what happened week after week regarding Orton and Henry. So again, it's nice to know that maybe we're going to see that pushed a little bit, and maybe that's Orton's return as well, when he sort of gets put on Raw. Perhaps they started to think, well look, we can't have talent left on SmackDown when they could indeed also be on Raw. But again, Mark Henry v Orton, this is one that wasn't too bad at Night of Champions. I thought it was entertaining, and again, a nice solid finish as well. Orton, not kind of wanting to be stronger, or sort of to have it, more or less dirty in terms of the finish. So a good feud, and hopefully Orton is a guy that can look presentable when you have Mark Henry lifting him up, and I think that's one thing the size of Orton can actually do. So I probably would go on Mark Henry retaining this. Probably a bit too early to think about chopping and changing that quite yet. So onwards to the next match, of course, Triple H Unsure as to what is going to be the situation here, because of course next Raw we might see results change. We might see the result of Tripp's outburst change. Of course, he wasn't happy at the end of the show when he tried to get rid of R-Truth and Miz. Something else could happen during the week with him.
So we're talking about the Cena Punk situation here.
Cena Punk Del Rio, yeah.
So yeah, it's official, yeah.
It is
Cena
indeed.
Punk Del Rio.
I'm just wondering if
All right.
Triple H is going to change something along the way.
It's kind of a weird Del Rio inside the Hell in a Cell match. It's a bit odd, but I suppose no worse than having Mark Henry in there, I suppose, really, is it? Cena probably to retain would be my guess. It'll just be weird. I think Del Rio in the middle of the other two. It just feels a bit odd to me. Maybe you're right about Triple H shaking things up a little bit, but we've had a lot of Punk and Cena, so we've seen what they can do. Cena, Del Rio is kind of fresh. Maybe if they were to go at it alone, might be some bit okay, but I don't know if, it's the greatest chemistry or program in the world for the two of them to be together, because there's no real storyline to back it up, really. And I think that's why it kind of stinks the place up for the most part, the two of them together. Having Punk in the equation will keep it some bit interesting, I think, for most people. But I still think it's probably a bit too soon for him to get the belt back. So my guess would probably be Cena, unless they haven't done that tour in Mexico and for whatever reason Cena has just got the belt. I know. I'll go with Cena with this one, I think.
I would jump straight on that and say Cena as well. I mean, again, they kind of flagged it a bit with those two title changes at the last pay-per-view. They can surprise us and just change them the next show, but with just such a short gap between those two events. It's actually one of the shortest gaps, I think. Someone said in history, I think it was Matty P in 01 said that this is the shortest gap you ever get. And again, yeah, it does seem like that, but probably too early, as you say. Punk as well, not somebody I'm too into. I have to say that as I see him put on TV more and more, I know he's somewhat over with the fans, but I see far more Zack Ryder signs, personally. And I think Zack Ryder actually is somewhat more over than Punk. I'm just not really buying him as being a top level guy. I just don't think he is.
I liked some bit of truth. I think that was in Trips' promo on a SmackDown a couple of weeks back when he was talking to Punk. I think there was definitely a lot of truth in what he said. When he kind of went on about, as much as he thinks he's the savior, really, it's his demands and eagerness in a way that has put him in the position he's in, and he should be grateful for it. There's a lot of truth in that, to be honest with you. Anyway, not to bang on about it, I'm going to go Cena with this one. I don't know if we'll get any sort of interference. Maybe Ricardo for a sneaky Del Rio win. I doubt it very much. Punk with the win. I don't know if he needs it. It's like he's the kind of the company guy at the moment. Not the company guy, but the hot topic. So he can get away with doing that without a belt for definitely a good 6 months to a year, possibly, if he keeps it up. So Cena, I'd say, would probably be a safe bet.
I concur with that. John Cena is going to take that belt home after the upcoming Hell in a Cell. We look forward to that one. Head on over to us here Sunday nights, 9 GMT, 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific on justin.tv/WrestleDopeRadio. Subscribe to our channel, youtube.com/TheWrestleDope, and indeed plenty more to come from us here on the channel.